Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the Square the Circle music channel. It's me, your host, your pal, Aaron Major. That's right, here at the Square the Circle music channel, I, your host, like to talk about record collecting and music appreciation. So why don't you join in the fun. What are we going to talk about tonight, Mage? Well, I have had this one on the back burner for a while. I've been thinking about it and kind of like going through everything and trying to find my best ideas and my favorite little, nuggets and gems to show you guys. So I concocted a little bit of a list that's kind of like a continuation, kind of a continued thought on one I did quite some time ago about my favorite A-sides, albums. And so I'm going to kind of elaborate on that, and I'm going to do a 10 list of my favorite side-long epic songs, like A-side, all one song. That was kind of like a stipulation I gave myself, like kind of a little rule that I didn't want to break when I did my favorite A-sides. I wanted it to be kind of like a full experience, many song, just like a miniature, journey, a trip just on one side. And I felt I came up with some pretty great shit. This one was a little more difficult because you can imagine there's not a lot of albums that have one track A-sides, but there's some fantastic ones, and I immediately went to a couple of typical picks for myself, and I was like, oh man, I looked at the back and there's 2 tracks on that A-side. So a no cheater kind of bag here, I'm pretty sure. This is tried and true to my own little rule, my own little test here. So let's dive on in. These are my favorite, like I said, side-long, one-track epic songs. So here we go. Let's dive right in, shall we? First on my list, not a cheater, but just kind of like, it's a twofer. And just because I kind of wanted to just get the obligatory kind of like, out of the way. I'm sure you're all expecting this from me, and a huge majority of this pile I have here is obviously going to be progressive, progressive rock, because that's what prog is known for, these side-long epic tales to be told. And so, of course, you have to, you can't omit, or you just have to give the honorable mention to the band Yes, in 1973, and of course 1974. Their epic Tales from Topographic Oceans, and the first track, the Revealing Science of God. 22 minutes, I'm pretty sure, something of that nature. Probably my favorite, close to my favorite Yes song of all time. Lots and lots of things can be said about that song and what it means to me personally, and what, the world thinks of it. But we're all, very, aware of its powers. And of course, the next year they just kind of kept that tradition going with my favorite that Yes ever gave us, 1974's Relayer. And of course, the opening track, full A-side long track, being The Gates of Delirium, which I better check myself again. I did a Yes episode maybe like almost a year ago now, where I talked about my personal top 10 favorite Yes songs of all time. I think Awaken is probably still my favorite song, but a very, very close second would be Gates of Delirium, this A-side. Again, I think with the, the soon outro included into it, it's got to be at least probably 18 to 20 minutes long. So love that song, love these albums. My favorite that Yes gave us, those 2 albums. So yeah, had to bring that up, had to do the obligatory Yes thing. They're known for that. Of course, most prog bands are, but this is a little bit different. This next one is, I've brought this up a lot lately. I'm always jibber jabbering about these guys, local boys, my local hometown heroes, the band Yob. I talked about this just this morning, actually. I did a fun thread video for the vinyl community about this band, and specifically this album and the record label that puts these albums out by the band Yob, Relapse Records. That's what I was talking about this morning, but now I'm talking about the epic long In Our Blood is the name of the song. That is the entire A-side devoted to this album. It just crushes. It's just soul crushing. It's wonderful, you know, like I've said before, this wonderful breed of artsy fartsy doom metal from here, from Eugene, Oregon. These guys fucking slay. None more obvious, and what a great testament to that being the A side on this album. This was released in 2014. It's called Clearing the Path to Ascend. Yeah, track 1, In Our Blood, like I said, is just, it kind of goes a lot of places. It starts really kind of like mellow and low and just kind of plodding along, and then just really gives time for like Mike Scheidt, the singer guitar player, to really kind of shine his, you know, the crunching distortion as they kind of plod along. They're notorious for kind of their brand of doom being really kind of like heavy in the 3 meter, like plods along, like I said, just kind of like dun 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 ba dun dun. It's kind of a slow, almost kind of swing pattern. What these guys do a lot. It's magnificent, but like I said, it really gives time for their lead singer, guitar player Mike Scheidt, to really just kind of stretch and hit all sorts of great boundaries along the way. He has these really great high vibrato, like kind of operatic moments, but also his, you know, his doom crunch Cookie Monster shit is on point. Yeah, these guys are the shit. So local legends for me, Eugene, Oregon, the band Yob. Check out this, the whole album. It's a double disc, and every single side is dedicated to one song. So 4 sides, 4 songs, you know, fucking probably 45 minutes, 50 minutes of just like slaying your soul doom metal. Thank you from Yob. Okay, here's another one. I kind of wanted to get the garden variety ones that I bring out a lot and talk about a lot, kind of get those, you know, out of the way up front. This one too has been gracing my channel a lot recently, for no real reason. It's just, it's always kind of at the forefront of my collection. I was, you know, if I ever want to talk about it and I have to look for it, I usually have to go very far. There's a pile right here on the floor in a little, a couple little milk crates that, you know, stuff that just is always at the front, you know, getting played all the time. This A-side is just the shit. I've talked about it a bunch. Steve Hillage and his Fish Rising album from 1975, the Solar Music Suite. Man, they've separated it like it is, you know, actual suite style. So there's like part A, B, C, and D, but it all is like obviously just flows, you know, seamlessly, one solid song. It's just gorgeous. All of you old prog nuts and psych rock guys, you know, you're all very familiar with this, I'm sure. Any of you new cats, any of you dudes from like my generation or quite a bit younger, you can really get into this. Really accessible, really cool, you know, mellow psychedelic rock with, you know, tinges of the kind of like the frills of progressive rock kind of injected in places in there. But really, I mean, it feels to me like it's just more straight up like psych rock. Really great fucking album, everybody. Yep, check it out. Side long, track A, pretty badass. Here's one that a lot of you folks may not be really super familiar with. It's kind of like, not a niche band, but it's just one of those groups that you really have to kind of dig deep into a specific style, subgenre to really come across, you know, to just happen upon or, you know, stumble across on the interwebs. But this is a band I discovered probably upwards of like, you know, 6-7 years now ago, when I started stumbling across all these great bands that were doing kind of this, you know, psychedelic stoner jazz stuff that those cats up in Scandinavia are doing. So I'm talking like, you know, people call it Scandi jazz. There is that subgenre, but this stuff is more kind of like psychedelic rock. From that label I talk about incessantly, El Paraíso Records out of Copenhagen. This is one of their flagship bands. They have kind of like 2 bands that are the flagships of that record label. Kazo Sui being one of them, and the other one being this band, Papir, from Copenhagen. A trio, psychedelic rock, fused with jazz, fused with other kind of really cool elements, but primarily you're getting, you know, a really fantastic breed of just kind of like mellow psych rock that just is really, you know, major key tonality present, just really kind of like uplifting, you know, and exciting, and just kind of the realms they go and the riffs and the you know, trading fours and just conceptualizing and what they're doing, because a lot of it is jam inspired. It's really, fuck, people could even venture as far as to say they're a jam band, which, you know, I wouldn't wholly disagree with to a certain extent. But just because it's so free form and it's so jazz inspired that way, it really kind of takes away from the like hippie jam band thing. That's not what they are. But as you can tell, like I said, it's free form. You know, it's based in jazz, trading fours, jamming out. And it's just got way more elements of psychedelic rock to it than anything. So everybody check out this one. This is their 5th LP that they released, and so they just titled it Roman numeral 5, and they're known for that. So every track is listed as 5-1, 5-2, 5-3. They do that for every album, and yeah, 5-1 it's fucking badass. Something like 15 minutes, not quite that long, near 13 minutes, but yeah, just kind of goes wonderful places. The majority of the beginning of it, you know, they have a similar formula. They're, you know, mildly formulaic, just like you kind of have to be when you're, you know, a psychedelic kind of jazz inspired fusion band. You have your roadmap, and you use that roadmap, and you don't really divert from it that much, to a certain degree. But they use a lot of the same tricks throughout their music, but it's not repetitive, it's not formulaic and cookie cutter to a bad extent. But their formula is apparent to anybody that kind of knows their way around a rock song, you know, borderline moderately formulaic. But I like that. I like, because it's nearly kind of predictable sometimes. But there's those jamming moments where you kind of never know what's going to happen. Track 1 on this just kind of does that. It's just really kind of like bubbling in the ether in the beginning, and then you realize, you're like, where's that tempo? Like, where's that beat? What are they doing? And they're doing some really fantastic mellow jam in like 11, I believe it's in 11/8, or chopped up into a couple different short meters, but it feels to me like it's kind of like a long, you know, strolling along 11 feel, because they're just dropping out that 8th note just to kind of like keep you interested, you know. And then they have, you know, as soon as like the tambourine starts coming in on the 16th note, like you really start to hear like where that 3-bar pattern groove is like really starting to kind of like come together and make sense. And then they change it up on you, and they add the extra 8th note, and they turn it into a straight, you know, 12/8, which kind of like divides into like a 4/4 feel. Kind of goes into just like kind of straightforward rock and roll. They even kind of like up the tempo a tiny bit, just kind of like, you know, direct tempo change. Yeah, it's a great journey. These tracks that they do, especially the entire, you know, side 1 epic track, 5-1 from the band Papir. Danish stoner rock jazz. It's fucking sweet. Here's another classic one for you guys, which I love. This was my introduction to this band, and it took me away. Again, just kind of like a sweet style. I mean, this band, of course, was kind of known for that very, you know, orchestral, symphonic, you know, prog, and very grandiose, very cool. Their second album that they gave us was it 70 or 71? No, this was 71. Was Tarkus, the second from ELP, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Yeah, like I said, the track 1, Tarkus, Eruption, Stone of Years, and the Iconoclast, Mass, Manticore, blah, 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 the whole thing. I love it. I love every single second of it. It's an absolute masterpiece. Yeah. Side 1. Pretty badass. Hooray for ELP. Another classic for you guys. Gotta bring out some of them fantastic classics, and this was one that was like right off the top of my brain. I was like, ooh, I haven't really talked about that very much. I fucking love that opening. This was the first time I ever, well, probably not the first time I ever heard this group, but this was what, you know, everybody kind of gravitates directly toward when I discovered this band like 20 years ago. You know, and some ex-girlfriends like, oh, you don't listen to Phaedra? Like, it's like their best, whatever, but Tangerine Dreams, Phaedra, 1974. Whoo-wee! That whole first track, It's the title track, isn't it? Isn't that what it's called? Yeah, it's just called Titled Phaedra. All of side one. Woo, what a journey. What a fucking journey. Yeah, I can't really get into like super specifics about this because it's just so, you know, so crazy, ethereal, awesome electronica, Tangerine Dream. This is a reissue that I got for a really, really modest price. I couldn't believe the price tag on this. I think I got it at a record show for like $6. It's absolutely 100% pristine, simply because it's like a 1981 reissue. Yeah, so whatever. Who cares? Don't need an original copy of everything. This stunningly gorgeous 81 reissue, I'll take it for $6. All right, guys, getting down to the last few. Thanks again for hanging out with me tonight. Stop by the Instagram and say what's up. I'm Square the Circle Records on Instagram. I don't really have like a Facebook page or anything like that. And I guess if you want to get creepy, you can like type my name into Facebook and say hi, but that would be creepy. So yeah, what else you guys been doing? I haven't really been doing much. Just work and then gardening. That's about it. All right, well, let's go back to talking about music. This is an excellent fucking EP that I discovered. This was not the first of this band that I discovered. I discovered their previous LP, but then right when I discovered them, they were like still cranking out records, and this EP had just come out. It kicks so much ass. It's beyond cool. It was on my top 10 of the year 2020 for best releases of that year. Even though it is just an EP, I still welcome EPs into my life, and especially into my top 10 of the year lists, especially for this one, King Buffalo. The Dead Star EP is amazing. All of the first side A, is dedicated to the Red Star saga. It does have two separate track titles, Red Star Part 1, Red Star Part 2, but it is just all one song. It's so fucking great, guys. Oh my God, it's got that really kind of like slow, sludgy kind of like first part, the first like 8 minutes of the song where it's just kind of, just going, just kind of has that like, early proto-metal inspiration, Black Sabbath, Tony Iommi kind of thing, and it even actually into the second part, you can tell there's a noticeable just like direct tempo change, style and feel change automatically, just homeboy on the guitar, it's like goes into this like actually kind of a straight up Black Sabbath ripoff, like, War Pigs, like through and through, but different tempo, different kind of like feel altogether, but you can tell heavily inspired by that, like I said, proto metal of the early 70s that Black Sabbath gave us. And these guys aren't one of those bands that's trying to like be more Black Sabbath than Black Sabbath was. They're not one of those bands. They're all over the spectrum of hard rock, psych rock, garage, stony stuff, stony baloney shit, man. They're fucking great. Yeah, everybody check out King Buffalo and the Dead Star EP, side 1, Red Star Part 1 and 2. Yeah, pretty sick track. All right, guys, getting down to the last couple. Of course, you're all going to expect to see this from me. The next couple ones, all of them, really. I bring these albums out all the fucking time just because they're so monumental and fantastic. Yeah, let's see, this was like 2017, right? Their 4th LP. I love the band Wobbler. Love them so much. Norwegian prog rock band, neo-prog, whatever you want to call it. They have more of kind of a classic prog inspiration kind of a feel and sense. They've just kind of like, they take bits and pieces from every fucking thing. Like I hear tons of, Genesis, tons of Yes, tons of Anglagard, tons of the band Cathedral. They just get so much inspiration. Their music is so fantastic. Anyone that loves prog music that's never listened to Wobbler, you've got to dive in. Like I said, this is their 4th LP, From Silence to Somewhere, released 2017. And all of side 1 is dedicated to the title track, From Silence to Somewhere. Do dee do dee do da da dee da dee da dee da do 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 do. It's so fantastic, so just like epic and beautiful, and just it's all over the fucking place. There's so much beauty in that one track. This album is just, to me, it's just that one track basically. I mean, everything else on here is fantastic, but you know, it's more or less just kind of like wholly centered around that the opening track. I mean, Foxlight is pretty dope, but I think they should have swapped those tracks. Well, but then I wouldn't be able to add them on this episode because then Foxlight would be on the A side. But whatever. Fantastic A side, the title track to the album From Silence to Somewhere by the Norwegian prog band Wobbler. All right, here's some American rock, guys. Some American rock. Actually, these guys just relocated in the last like 4 years to Berlin. They're in Germany now, so I mean, they're still an American rock band, right? Can we still claim rights to these guys here in America, please? This is really like one of the few things that American rock and roll can really be proud of itself. The band Elder. This is when Elder, 2015, this was already their third full-length LP, and they were really, really gaining some traction in the rock and roll world, and still like weren't gigantic. They signed to a real small-time label called Armageddon, and yeah, this was, in my opinion, their real like shooting off, taking off point where I think they had their second guitar player as a full-time member now, so they were officially a 4-piece, and they could really experiment with some really great shit. And like I said, this was their moment to like take it into the progressive realm, and they really did, coming from just kind of like psychedelic hard rock metal, kind of doomy in the early days of these guys, but these days, starting with this album in 2015, like I said, could really be construed as being just kind of like a prog band. Heavy prog. This album, Lore, is the name of the album. The opening track on the A-side, the entire A-side dedicated to a song called Compendium. And it is a whirling, swirling dervish of epic proportions. These guys mirroring each other's guitar work and how it's fucking incredible. This is a guitar player's album for sure. Any of you peeps that are guitar players, you will love and respect the shit out of this album. And if you like stuff on the heavier side, progressive in nature, you will, I don't know, chances are you'll adore this album as much as I do. This was not even my the first album I ever heard from them. This was actually kind of like an afterthought for me. My first album that I heard from them was Reflections of a Floating World in 2016-17. And then I had to backtrack and check this one out. And you could tell, the inspirations, and they were all kind of written right around the same time. All the songs, I mean, from this album and the album that came shortly thereafter. So, really fantastic band, guys. Gotta check them out. Elder. Definitely worth your time and money. Throw all of your fucking money at those guys. They're great. And they still have a long career ahead of them, which is really exciting for guys like me when you come across newer bands that are young and they fucking rock. They're so great. They're not that typical breed of bullshit, the garbage that keeps getting thrown at us in the media and on the, whatevers. So, special band, guys, in my opinion. Very special band. And of course, last but definitely not least, more of a seasoned musician who's kind of been around the block, not his first rodeo, so to speak. And he's still just cranking out the musical masterpieces for us. Bless his heart, bless his soul. Thank you, Steven Wilson, for everything you do for us, people who love progressive rock and hard rock and even metal. And, Steven Wilson really kind of has his tendrils out into all of the little pockets of the universe, the musical universe. He's truly an epic genius of... He'll definitely go down in history. You know what I mean? The entire A-side dedicated to the song Luminol. Yeah, the song Luminol is just kind of like I kind of crapped my pants a little bit the first time I heard this, because I was just really getting into prog rock. I didn't grow up on prog rock. I didn't know anything about it when I was in high school or college or even young adulthood. I was still just kind of listening to the same crap I was in the 90s. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, prog was new to me. And then when I heard Porcupine Tree for the first time in like 2000, maybe 2008, 2009, something like that. And then shortly thereafter, discovering Porcupine Tree, homeboy was like, "Oh, you like that sound? You like that? You like that? Check this out." Man, that shit just does not fucking quit. It does not quit. What an amazing song, Luminol, dude. Yeah, 12 minutes. What an incredible way to open up this album. Just perfect. That shit is perfect in every way. This whole album is. I think it's been heralded by, prog nuts, for a decade or more now. What was this, 2011? 2013, I think. It was more like 2013, wasn't it? But yeah, like I said, heralded by prog nuts as being just kind of like a goddamn, instantaneous masterpiece. And then it also gets a fair amount of fucking hate from people as being maybe a tad bit kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, just kind of regurgitative, of just kind of like, reminiscent and just kind of copycatish and just whatever. I don't know. Horse shit, horse pucky. I think it's fucking a masterpiece. The Raven That Refused to Sing by Steven Wilson. 2013, I'm pretty sure, on K-Scope. That's when he still was doing the K-Scope thing. I don't know, does he still put albums out on K-Scope, or is he like strictly the panegyric thing now? Who fucking cares? Anyway, Steven Wilson's the shit. You guys are the shit. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight and talking about my epic side-long tracks, the A-sides of albums. Those are some of my favorites. So tell me how you feel about that. And why don't you come back and join me sometime and, yeah, sit and spin for a little while. Have a cup of coffee. Stay a while. Anyway, you guys are great. Keep them clean. Peace in the crease. And, yeah, that's all I got for you. Later.